Yes, we're on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last workshop of the day. Welcome to Bali. Um, I hope you can hear me well because it's raining. We have a really big tropical thunderstorm coming over at the moment, so gives you a little bit of special vibes this afternoon. So, yeah, let me first see who is here, who is joining today, and where you're coming from. So, let's see. It would be really nice to see some alumni here because I've been working with over the last 2 years. So if you've been to the retreat recently, we might have met in person. And yeah, I'm super happy to be back here today to talk to you about the doshas, about Ayurveda. So let's see, who is here? Can you, in the chat, can you write your name and where you're from? It would be lovely to see you. So I just got back to Bali after being away for a little bit. I'm originally from Holland, and due to COVID, I was stuck there for almost half a year, very long time to be away from home. And I just recently got back to Bali, and it's so nice to be back here. I really missed my own house and my Bali family and work. Of course, working with all of you ladies. I'm so grateful to be here today and spend some time with you, even though it's virtually. Yeah, because I really miss being over with all of you and sharing my passions and growing together and learning from each other. So let's see, who is here? Oh, yeah. Hey. Hey, Victoria from New Zealand. Hello, welcome. Here. Hey, Frankie. My Escape Haven sister. Hey, Victoria from New Zealand. Hello, welcome. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Ayurveda. Because for some of you it might be very new, for some of you you might have heard the word before, and it's a really wide concept. So please write in the chat, and if I say the word Ayurveda, what comes to mind? Like what are you thinking about? So some people say often herbs or spices, or cooking, or eating a certain way. Indian food is also a big one. And then, of course, massage. If you've been to Escape Haven, we have this beautiful Ayurvedic package where you get Ayurvedic treatments, a very specialized treatment for the body and mind. All of this is part of Ayurveda. So the word Ayur, it means life. And the word Veda means to see or to know. So Ayurveda basically means the science of life. So it's a life science. It's a way of looking at life, but from an energetic perspective. So together with yoga and Tantra, so Ayurveda, yoga, and Tantra, those three together form the foundation of the Vedic sciences. And basically Ayurveda deals with the body and the mind to be healthy, to make sure that you're healthy so you don't have to be occupied with taking care of your body because you're sick or you're out of balance, because if so, it's very hard to do anything bigger in the world than just taking care of yourself. So Ayurveda wants you to be in your best possible shape so you can do something bigger in the world. And that's where yoga also comes in. So yoga, it's a way to strengthen your body and your mind as a container so you can hold a lot of energy. And that's what the practice of Tantra is about. And now, Tantra nowadays is often linked to strange sexual practices and full body orgasms. But that's a very tiny bit of the Tantric sciences. So Tantra is really about amplifying the volume. You have prepared your body and your mind to be able to hold a lot of energy, then you can amp it up through the practices of Tantra and use this energy, all kinds of energies, for spiritual growth. But we're not talking about yoga today, we're not talking about Tantra. We're going to talk about Ayurveda. So Ayurveda, the science of life, life knowledge. So Ayurveda looks at life from an energetic perspective. And in order to talk about something that we cannot see, we need to use language. So the language that Ayurveda uses is the language of the elements. So we work with 5 elements, and they're earth, fire, water, air, and ether. So Ayurveda says those 5 energies are manifested in anything that you see in this material world. And they all have their place there. And that means those energies, when we think about it, when we think about earth, or we think about water or fire from our human perspective, we think about the physical substance. So when we think about water, we think of the water molecule, H2O, that comes out of the tap. And Ayurveda says, yes, that's true, that is water. But what we ask you to do is to zoom out a little bit and look at the qualities of water. So we're not looking at the substance itself when we talk about water, but we're talking about the energetic qualities, and we call those the gunas. So water, for example, by nature is cool, unless there is like an external fire or the sun that warms it up. Water by nature moves down. It will always find its way down, and when it can't go down any further, it will start to spread. Water is moist. Water, things dissolve into the water. So water dissolves things, even really hard surfaces like stone, for example. Water, when it moves over stone for a very long period of time, it starts to find its way through the stone. So all those are energetic qualities of water, and that's what Ayurveda works with. Now fire has very different qualities. So fire is hot, it's sharp, it penetrates, it transforms, right? Put something in the fire will transform it and into something else. So those are the energetic qualities of fire. And so all those elements have their own qualities, their own gunas. And we as human beings also have 5 different energies inside of our body and minds. So they all have their own function. And we all need them. For example, air. When you think of air in the body, the first thing that you might think of is your breath. When you breathe, of course, there is movement. So that's a function of air. Air regulates anything related to movement because it can move into all directions. So yes, our breath, the movement of our breath, but also the movement of your heart, the movement of your digestion, the movement of your cycle, your hormonal cycle, the movement of your thoughts, your mind. All of that is governed by the element of air. So air regulates movement in the body. Fire does something different. Fire transforms. So on a cellular level, fire is the one that is behind the metabolism. Fire is also, you eat something, there's a transformation, and there's energy, and there's a waste product. In the mind, fire is the force behind our mental digestion and our emotional digestion. So there's a lot of input throughout the day, and then that needs to be digested. So there's something coming in, and then there's an output. There's a thought or an idea or so fire, digestion. Earth creates stability. If you think of energetic qualities of earth, it's stable, it's strong. So for example, our bone structure is very much related to the earth element. It's very dense. So they all have their place inside our system. However, we are all human beings and we all have human DNA, but if you look at a DNA level, we're all slightly different. And in Ayurveda, we look at our energetic blueprint. And our energetic blueprint, unique blueprint, we call it dosha. So, of course, there's a lot of variety, but in this workshop, we're going to keep it simple. There's 3 main doshas, main energetic blueprints. And they're called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So, let's start with Vata. Vata is a combination of air and ether. So it will be a person that is more what we call Vata dosha. A Vata constitution is a person that has more air and more ether or space in their system. Now, how does that manifest? So I'm an example of someone that has more air in their constitution. So when you look at me, you can't really see I'm sitting down, but my frame, my build is quite narrow. I have narrow small shoulders, I have narrow hips, I have very narrow joints, my wrists, my elbows, they're very small. And of course I can become obese and I can look much bigger, but my skeletal structure, my foundational structure is still small and thin and brittle. The shape of my face is quite long and thin. My hair, I have a lot of hair, but it's fine and it's quite dry. And if you think of the qualities of air, it's light, it's dry, it's mobile. My skin tends to be very dry, not so much here in a tropical climate, but my natural state is dry skin. In my mind, air can manifest in a different way. So air can move in all directions and it's not very stable. So a person has more air or more space. We can also call that an airhead, or you're spacing out. So it's people that usually can be very creative because their thoughts can move in all directions, but they're also very easily distracted. They start a project and it's like the wind. You blow them from one way to the other. So it's hard to kind of keep focused on a goal that's a little bit more long term. A Vata will be very easy to be enthusiastic about something. So it's very easy for me to be really enthusiastic about something, but it's harder for me to keep on going with a certain project because I'm easily distracted and doing something. So that's just how Vata can manifest in the body and the mind. So that's our first dosha. Vata, a combination of air and ether. The second one we call Pitta. So Pitta is the combination between fire and water. So fire and water seem like two opposites, and in a certain way that's true. However, when we talk about it today, let's say that fire is the most dominant one of those. So fire is the one that will determine most qualities of a Pitta person. So in a physical body, fire and water would manifest in more of a medium frame. So they're not narrow as Vata, a little bit more of a medium build. Often they're very easy to develop muscles. So they go to the gym and they can see results quite quickly. They have, sometimes they have quite a lot of freckles. And when you really know that fire or Pitta is there, is when people have red hair. So my son is very reddish and red curly hair. So I knew straight away that this guy was going to be a fiery one, right? So on a mental level, people that are more fiery, they can be passionate or intense. It's people that are very determined. Often they are goal-oriented, they know what they want, and they're going to go for it. And fire is sharp. Fire penetrates, so they're really they're really go-getters. They're also often people that are really good at creating, like lighting up the room when they come in and making people enthusiastic about their plans. They can be very convincing when they want something. So really good in getting something started or pushing through resistance. When you think of an imbalance of fire, which means there's too much fire in the system, fire becomes sharp, fire becomes hot. So then it can manifest as being more aggressive, being short-tempered, being getting angry. That are all signs of, ooh, that flame, that fire is going up a little bit too high. So that's Pitta, the second one. So we have Vata, air and ether. We have Pitta, fire and water. And then the third one is called Kapha. So Kapha, it's a combination between earth and an archetype of a person that is more earthy, that is more Kapha, would be someone like Mother Earth. So when you think of Mother Earth type, that would be a person that is more voluptuous. So it's a person that has a wide frame, strong, well-knitted joints, well padded, more a curvy frame by nature. So it's definitely, it's not fat. Fat has nothing to do with Kapha. Kapha is more, it's more curvy, it's more liquid, it's more round. In Ayurveda, it's actually seen as the strongest dosha because it has the most density, the most substance. It's people that have a lot of stamina. They're often slow to get started. Think about earth, to get earth and water like mud moving, it's not easy compared to, for example, Vata, air. You blow and that person gets moving. So earth and water goes a lot slower. So it's people that often have trouble kind of to get going. But once they go, they're really good on keeping an eye on the horizon and being focused and being strong. And when Vata people have already given up a long time ago, still there. So it's people you can really build on. You can really trust them. It's people that will never forget. They forgive, but they will never forget. They tend to hold on to things. So holding on to thoughts, holding on to material things sometimes. They're the holders. They're also good for others. Like they can really talk with emotions and hold space for other people to express. So in our Western world, we really like to say, oh, those personality characteristics are good and those are bad. And Ayurveda just says, well, they're not good or bad either way. They're just qualities. And if you understand what you are made of as a person, you will be able to respond to the world in a way that makes sense. So you'll be able to predict how you will respond to certain things once you start to look at the lens of energies, of gunas. And then we're talking about everything. So Ayurveda is not just about herbs or spices or massages, or it is plus everything, because everything in your life has qualities. So let me give you an example of that. So, for example, if I would be a fiery person, and let's say that we're in summer, so it's warm, and I'm in a place in my life that is, so I'm under a little bit of pressure. And I'm working the whole morning, and we get to the middle of the day, and I feel like I have to get out of the office and get a little bit of movement in to empty out the thoughts in my head. And I go for a high intensity training or go to a Bikram yoga class. And after that, I meet with a friend, and we're going to go to my favorite restaurant, and I order a nice red curry. And then I come home and I meet with my partner, and we would get in a big fight. Then Ayurveda would say, yeah, I could have predicted that, because you're putting fire on fire on fire on fire. I'm already a fiery person. It's summer, which means there's a lot more fiery energy around. We're in the middle of the day where the influence of the sun is the highest, so even more fire in the atmosphere. And then I'm going to do an exercise routine that creates more heat in the body, more internal fire. And then I'm going to eat food that increases that fire even more in my body. So what direction energetically, where does fire move? It always moves up. It will never move down. And it's sharp. So if it moves up and it's sharp, that means I'm going to be sharp and I'm going to be reactive. Fire is very reactive. This example, if you know that you're Pitta dosha and you know that it's summer and that you're a little bit stressed, you already know, ooh, I need to balance that. So maybe that exercise class where I'm creating a lot more heat is not the best choice for me, right? So a better choice might be to, if I have to move in the middle of the day, maybe go for a swim. Or otherwise, if you can do it at another time, maybe early in the morning, or going for a walk in the evening would be much better options for that specific person, for that specific day. Same with food. A Thai spicy curry increases that heat internally. So if you want to reduce your fire, you better choose food that has the opposite qualities. For example, a salad with cucumber and watermelon and things that are cooling for the system. That doesn't mean that the Thai curry is bad, or that the high intensity training is bad. It's just not your medicine at that specific day. So Ayurveda always says, what can be your medicine can be my poison, and the other way around, because everything is relative. And what can be my medicine today might not be my medicine in half a year. So everything depends on time, place, circumstance. So therefore it's very cyclical. During what time of your life are you? What environment? So what is the season? And we're very much creatures of habit. So often, for example, with breakfast, we have a certain breakfast that we like, or we have a certain morning routine. And at one time in our lives, that was our medicine, and we really enjoy that. And we keep on doing that while the outer circumstances have changed. For example, here in Bali, I really like to have breakfast with fresh fruits. And we're living in a country where there's an abundance of coconuts and mango and passion fruit. And here, for me, that's a great breakfast. However, when I was back in Holland and it's cold and windy outside, my mind still likes the idea and the taste of that sweet, the sweet fruits and the variety of colors on my plate. However, when it's cold outside in winter, that is not my medicine. So, being in Holland, a much better option for me would be porridge. So I could have a warm porridge with some almonds and some cinnamon, and making sure that I'm grounded and I'm heavy and I'm stable. Again, coming back to Bali now and having that same porridge, it would make me feel hot and heavy and slow in the morning. So it's really about looking every day, who am I today? What qualities do I need to balance? Do I feel a little bit unstable? Do I feel a little bit ungrounded? What can I use around me to bring in those qualities of grounding? Heavy, dense, warm. And you can find that in everything. You can find that in food. You can find that in relationships. You can find that in smells. Some smells are activating. Some smells are calming. Colors. Let's start look at your house. What colors are you using? Is that stimulating or is it calming? And what do you need? Is it actually your balance? Is it actually balancing for you? So that's throughout our life. And we're all born with our natural constitution. And that will never change. It's like your DNA. Your DNA will never change. In Ayurveda, we call that your Prakruti, your natural constitution. So if this is your natural constitution, as we move through life, we're constantly changing. We're never the same. So sometimes you might have more air, or sometimes you might have more earth. You might go through a period in your life where you feel more sluggish, harder to get going. That difference between who you are and who you are actually and who you are today, that is what we call our imbalance. And in Ayurveda, we always want to come back to our natural state. And our natural state doesn't mean that all the elements have to be balanced. No, it means understanding who you are. If you are fire, move through life as fire. Use your natural qualities of fire, of being the one that transforms, being the one that moves things, being the one that reaches her goals. But be aware if the fire around you increases through lifestyle, through climate, through anything, how to keep check of your fire and how to balance that out. Know your medicine that is unique to you. So that's the foundational knowledge of dosha. So you might already recognize like, ooh, I have a little bit more traits of kapha, or I have a little bit more traits of vata. So it can be that your body and your mind have different have a different dosha. So you can be more kaphic build in the body, but have a more vata mind that is more racing. So that would mean to balance the body, you need to do different things than to balance the mind. I hope that made sense. So, as I said, Ayurveda also is very much attuned to nature. They say, you are so you are without. So it's very about aligning to the natural rhythm. So also throughout the day, there are certain energies, certain elements that are more dominant. And then we work with something that's called the Ayurvedic Clock. So I'm just going to turn the camera a little bit so you can look at the Ayurvedic clock. Let's see. Okay. So, okay. So this is what we call the Ayurvedic clock. So that means we have a time of 12 hours that is divided into 3 parts of 4 hours. And it's both AM and PM. So I'm going to walk you through a day, like how a day works with the Ayurvedic clock and what that means for your life. So in the morning, from 6 to 10, I actually see, this is not right. This might be confusing. So, from 6 to 10, earth element is more dominant. So, there you go. So that when you wake up, you would naturally be more like earth. So what qualities does earth have? It's dense. It's stable. You're grounded. So that means naturally, if you have slept well and you're in balance, that is how you feel in the morning. If you're out of balance, you're going to feel a little bit too much of earth. And that means too much of earth, you wake up and you feel sluggish. You wake up and you're slow. You press snooze like 3 times and it's really hard to get going, and you need that cup of coffee to kind of wake you up in the morning. And then the sun rises, and around 10, the influence of the sun is going to be more dominant. And we're entering Pitta time. So it's the time of fire, where fire is more dominant. And this is often a period of your day where you're kind of on the go, where you're getting a lot of stuff done, where you're active. If your fire is the highest, that also means your internal fire in your belly is the highest. So Ayurveda would always say, no matter what your dosha is, to have your largest meal at lunchtime. Simply because at that time, your digestive fire is high, and your food will be absorbed and broken down much better than here in the evening, when your fire will be already low. So passing 2 o'clock, the sun is starting to go down, or on its way down. And we're entering Vata time, where Vata, air, is more dominant. And that's usually the time of the day around 4-ish. You can see kids going out of school. They're a little bit all over the place, a little bit restless. It might be the time where you're like, 4 o'clock. What can I snack? What can I have? Can I have another coffee? Where's the chocolate bar? To kind of keep you going, because your mind is going all directions. And then once we arrive around 6ish, the sun is going down. We're gonna have dinner, we're coming home, we're having some family time. Who knows, like after dinner, once you have had dinner, how hard is it to motivate yourself to get up and be active and do things like in the evening? For a lot of us, it's very hard once you kind of slow down to activate yourself. And that's very natural because the natural energy that's at this time is down. It's slow, it's grounded. It's a good time to connect with your loved ones and be cozy at home and maybe go for a walk or something like that. But it's slow and it's slowing down, preparing us to go to bed so we can actually sleep well. Now, then we arrive to Pitta time in the night. So in the night from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. So it's a time where there's a lot of digestion happening in the physical body. So it's a time where a lot of our organs detox. There's a lot of things happening in the mind to process. And you might notice that if you have fire in your constitution and you kind of feel tired around 8 or 9, but you're not going to bed because you have like a lot of things to do, you still want to answer some emails or you want to watch the next episode on Netflix, and before you know, it's like past 10 and you get this second wind of energy. That's fire. That's the energy of fire that you feel, the effect of fire. And then before you know, it's like past midnight and you're like, oh no, damn it, I should have gone to bed, but now I'm like all wired up, literally, and it's hard to fall asleep. And then after 2, 3 a.m., we're moving into Vata time, air. So air becomes more dominant. When you think of air, it's mobile, it's light. So this is a time of our sleep where our sleep becomes lighter. There's a lot more movement, so we have dreams. If you're someone that has a Vata dosha, a Vata imbalance, or a Vata nature, and that can even be like you're having a time in your life where you have a lot on your mind, you have worries. You sleep, and then you wake up around 3 or 4 in the morning with your head spinning, like so much movement in the head, and you cannot fall asleep because you're too mobile and too light to fall back asleep. And then you might lay in bed like tossing and turning until you arrive around 5ish, where the influence of earth starts to come in and you're able to fall asleep. And then you wake up in the morning and you feel all groggy. So this is very subtle, but it's very real, like how those elements, how those energies affect us throughout the day. So if you understand this clock, you can start to use that of your benefit and do certain things at certain times. So for most of us, a much better time to do some physical exercise is here in the morning. It's not here in the evening, because if we're gonna do a lot of exercise in the evening, we're gonna increase that fire. And if we're not in bed before 10, it's gonna keep us up and we're all energized again. It means at work, if you're gonna do a creative brainstorming session where you have to be a bit more open-minded, better do it here between 2 and 6, where you're more creative, you're more open-minded, you're able to see things from a different perspective. And make sure that you do the things that really require your focus and your attention, to do that earlier in the day. And the worst thing that you can do is to skip your lunch. And I know for a lot of us, we're really busy. It's hard to kind of create that time throughout the day to have a proper lunch. End up snacking, and it's really hard to stay focused if you don't have a proper lunch through this part of the day. So that's the Ayurvedic clock, like on a 24-hour scale. But this also works throughout our life. We also go through seasons. We also go through cycles. So from 0 to 20, more or less, we're in our kapha time of life. So from when you're born until you're like a full-grown adult human being. You start being super tiny, so you're literally creating mass. You're becoming who you are. You're growing. You're taking up your space. Intellectually, you're growing. Physically, you're growing. So that's our kapha time. And then between 20 and 50, 55-ish, we're in our pitta, our fire time of life. And if we think of fire, again, it's active. It's transforming things. So usually for most of us, this is the highlight of our career. It's also the most busy time of our life, where we have work, and if we have a family, we're literally creating, manifesting into the world, which is very much like fire. And then after 50, 55, we're moving into our Vata, our air time of our life. And for most of us, like for women, it's very obvious when that transition is, we're moving through menopause. For men, actually men go through the same change, they just don't call it menopause, but the same thing is happening. And that means that air becomes more dominant. And how does that manifest in the body? So if air starts to enter into our system, we become more mobile, more dry, more light. So as we age, our skin becomes more dry. We get more wrinkles. Our hair becomes more dry, or we even go bald or gray. Our bones become less dense and more, like osteoporosis, for example, is really a disease where our bones are thinning out. That is related to air, to Vata. Same thing in our mind, like our memory. We start to be much more forgetful. Or a disease like dementia. It's a thinning out of the brain. It's again air that starts to manifest a lot in the body. Now, there's nothing you can do to kind of escape from those influences. So we have to work with them. And that also means that we're going to be much more prone to certain things than to others. So for example, me, with my Vata constitution, I know that I'll be prone to getting something like osteoporosis after I don't pay attention. So if I already arrive at this stage of life after my 50th, and where I am dry and where I'm depleted, I'm going to be in trouble. So I better prepare for this stage of life, that I am well resourced, that I have gathered some qualities that are counterbalancing the dryness and the mobility of air. Now, a Pitta person will have different challenges. So a Pitta person, fire, in their fiery stage of life between 20 and 50, will be much more prone to get a burnout, literally burn out all that fire that has to go somewhere. Because it's usually also people that need to have projects, they need to be busy, they really keep themselves busy. They'll also be much more prone to having inflammation in the body. Inflammation is nothing more than an add up, an accumulation of fire that's going to go somewhere. A Kapha person, a person that has more earth, will have different challenges. This person will not get a burnout fast. If they do, it's going to be really severe. But they're much more prone to something like depression. Like, what is depression? It's a stagnation. It's stagnation of the body. It's a stagnation of the mind becoming too stagnant. So those people have to keep an eye, like, ooh, when is this earth? When am I becoming too slow? When are things stagnating? I need to get on moving. I need to make sure that I don't get too blocked. If a Vata person will do the same things that will be the medicine for Kapha, they will be all over the place because they have already a lot of lightness and movement. They often need to work more on grounding. So I hope it makes sense and you can see where you are, in what stage of life you are, and how that manifests, and what things are that you can do to bring balance. And again, look at everything in your life. So food, relationship, work. When are you doing what during your day? Because there will be changes. And you see that very well with exercise, for example. So I work with a lot of women that are high achievers, that have a lot of responsibility in their corporate job. And a way to cope with the stress and to release it from their body is to do strong workouts. And it makes them feel good, but they're also creating too much fire in their body. And they might be able to deal really well with that in this time of their life. But once they get to their Vata age of life, they're still used to having this strong routine. And at that point, it might become their poison. It might become, they might become too dry. You can see that sometimes women in their 50s or 60s that still work out a lot in the gym, you can see that they're really drying out from the inside. So at that point, their workout routine should focus much more on lubricating, making sure that the joints don't get too dry, to counterbalance the dryness that naturally occurs. So that's a lot of information. I'm going to turn around to the couch, and then I'll be back. So what Ayurveda eventually wants is that you begin to understand what you are made of. Who are you on an energetic level? And what do you need? And how can you bring those qualities into your life? So naturally, there is a universal law that we call like increases like. So often we are drawn to things that are the same as we are. For example, if I peek into a hot yoga class or Bikram yoga, 85% of the people in there are fiery people creating more fire because that makes them feel alive, right? If I look into Vinyasa yoga flow classes, especially classes that are a bit more dancey, choreography, we have like goddess types with the flowy dresses, like this one, and then munching on the rainbow colored salads and smoothie bowls. And it's Vata people, like me, that enjoy this feeling of being light and being spaced out, and then having a salad and a smoothie bowl that are very healthy, but we don't have the internal fire to actually digest it. So once I started to understand that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, why I'm drawn to certain things. And I enjoy them, but might not be my medicine. So my yoga practice, for example, changed a lot once I found out and I learned more about Ayurveda. And it became much more about incorporating more grounding qualities instead of, I already have enough of the energy going up and around. So Ayurveda wants you to become your own healer. And it will even become more and more difficult nowadays. There's so much information for everything, and we all want to do what is best. And if you only look at food, right? Our diet, what is the right diet to follow? Is it raw food? Is it no carbs? Is it keto? Is it, I don't know what kind of things you have, but there's so many diet gurus that all say, this is the best way, this is the best way. First of all, it's mostly pitta people that found something that really worked for them, and they want to spread the word and convince everyone else that this is the way to do it. And for them, that might be great. That might be really their medicine. But for someone else, it might have a complete different effect. There's no one size fits all. And Ayurveda with food really focuses on the digestion. So you can eat very healthy, what we call in our Western medicine, healthy food, smoothie bowls, salads that have a lot of nutrients in them. If you don't have the fire to really digest it, you're going to eat a lot of healthy food and you're going to be bloated. And you're like, I don't understand. I eat so healthy. How can I have these digestive troubles? And that often is because you're not eating the right foods for you. You're eating foods that you cannot digest. And just be curious, for the next week, be curious and see what are you drawn to? What qualities does this food have? Is it hot or cold? Is it moist or dry? Do you like more soups and stews, or are you more more drier foods? Is it heavy or light? And start to really notice how you feel and how does it sit in your digestion. Let go of this dogmatic way of thinking, oh, this is healthy and this is unhealthy. No, you are your own healer. Nobody else can observe what's going on inside you. Notice everything what you take. How does it affect you? become more aware of how things that you're putting into your system, how they are affecting you. Be curious and start to try different things out, like what works for you. Some people need a little bit more kick in the butt to kind of keep on going. Other people need to be slowed down. Yeah? Nobody else is going to tell you what is right for you. So what's right for you is very unique. And of course you can ask for the help of an Ayurvedic practitioner to find out what your dosha is and what your imbalance is. So what your natural state is and what your current imbalance is. And you can do some dosha tests online, but often they will point out your imbalance, where you are right now, because it's really difficult to reflect upon yourself, what your natural state is. And for a lot of us, we're imbalanced, and we identify very much with our imbalance, which might not be our natural state. Be something interesting to figure out. But most of all, Ayurveda wants you to be more aware of your choices, to live more in tune with nature. So food-wise, try not to make it too complicated. If you're going to eat, if you don't know your dosha, first of all, start to eat with the seasons. The seasons will always provide you the medicine for that time of the year. Like here in Bali, coconuts, fruits, a lot of things that are very cooling for the body because it's hot here. In Holland in winter, it will be carrots and pumpkins and squash and potato, roots, veggies. They already say it. They're rooting you. They're bringing you down. They're grounding. So local, fresh, with the seasons. That's already a really good place to start. We don't need all those superfoods flown in from all over the world to get the most optimal nutrition. Often, where are you? Use the land around you. And then start to notice. So instead of acting from habit, start to notice, hey, why am I doing this? Is this actually good for me? If I quiet all the voices in my head that say, you should do this or you should do that, how does it feel in my body? Because we're so much wiser than we think, right? So, that's a lot of information. And yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm really passionate about this subject. So yeah, feel free to ask. And I'm just going to check to see what you guys have been writing here. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Okay. I see. Oh, hey Janine. Hey Anna-Marie. Nice to see you. Hannah, me too. Vata. My practice have changed to grounding, much more meditation. Yeah. So what Hannah said is that her practice changed a lot towards more grounding things. And it is true that we live in a world that is that moves fast. We have so much more impressions than, let's say, our grandparents. Like the world has changed so much. And look at what we do in a day and how much information comes to us. It's a lot to process. So for many of us, I can already say yes. We have a massive Vata imbalance in the world. Too much air, too much movement. So for a lot of us, more grounding practices are really beneficial, unless that you're a real kapha. For most of us, we need more energy moving down. We already have enough energy moving up. We have enough energy up in our head. So for most of us, it's moving that energy more down into the body. And we can do breath work, we can do yoga, we can walk barefoot. But stillness and creating more space to allow ourselves to do nothing. Because the other thing, our pitta, our inner critic, can also be very loud. You should do this. You should do better. Come on, a little bit more. It's always pushing. So start to understand, hey, that's fire speaking there. Can I take a breath? Can I feel my body? Can I bring some of that energy down? Because fire and air together bring a lot of energy up in our head. And especially when we're working behind our computer, our energy is for 90% up here. Let's see, winter time with Vata imbalance. So Hannah asks, in winter time with Vata imbalance, what foods would you recommend? I love smoothie bowls. So yeah, that's a classic example of a Vata that says, I love smoothie bowls. And sister, I feel you, I'm the same. So first of all, Vata people are often people that have a little bit more digestive fire. So in the morning, digestive fire is still low. That means if you think of a smoothie bowl, what qualities does this smoothie bowl have? It's cold, it's dense, it's thick. So that fire that kind of tries to wake up, it's like, and you put that smoothie bowl on top, it puts the fire out. And it's really difficult for that fire to kind of get back on track for the rest of the day. So in the morning, ideally, you want to help that fire to raise. So first thing you could do in the morning is drink some warm water. Some warm water with lemon, if you like that. That lemon will kind of spark the digestion, and it will help that fire to start. Then in the winter, I'd really recommend you to have something warm. So a porridge with some warm almonds, some warming spices, cinnamon. You can have a little bit of cardamom, but mostly cinnamon. Ginger is very warming. And throughout the day, drink sips of warm water or drink sips of tea throughout the day to kind of keep lubricating and keep moisturizing and keep warm, basically. So for the rest, food-wise, Vata in wintertime, think of root veggies. So pumpkin soup is your friend. The 5 spices, warming spices, clove, ginger, cinnamon. You can start to cook a little bit more with that. Cumin is a good one too. You can also add a little bit of spice to your food. So if a little bit of chili, like not super sharp, but a little bit of chili, chai teas, soups, all kind of soups, and again, especially root veggies. And for Vata, also super important to have your breakfast meal at lunchtime. And that doesn't mean you can never have your smoothie bowl or you can never have your salad. Like Ayurveda is very much, we need to enjoy all of life, right? So think about your daily routines. If you do 80% of the time the things that are your medicine, you can do 20% of the time that you enjoy for another reason, that maybe your mind enjoys or your mouth enjoys, right? So you can have your smoothie bowl. Maybe in the weekend you're like, yes, I'm gonna have my smoothie bowl. And then enjoy it. But then instead of trying to make it really cold, do it with less ice. Maybe add some cinnamon and ginger to bring some warming elements to it. So less ice, more heating spices, and keep it simple. So sometimes we want to throw as many ingredients in as possible to make it really nutrient dense. But that fire in the morning, it's right, and the more complex, the more complicated the things that you put on top, the harder it will be to be digested. So think simple, warm, and warming spices if you choose a smoothie bowl, and try to make the smoothie bowl the exception. And then, most important, because I don't want to be the person that tells you what to do, I want you to become aware of the effects. Maybe do 5 or 6 days of porridge, and that can be almond milk with oats or with quinoa. If you want to use some fruits, you can do some apple. Keep it simple and see how you feel afterwards. What is your mental energy level? What does your body feel like? And then have your smoothie bowl and do the same. And I'm sure that if you pay attention, you're gonna experience the difference. And then you're free to choose. Like, what do you prefer? You're free to choose what makes you feel good. But you're gonna notice. I hope that helped. All right, Abigail says, I'm going to research my dosha to better integrate all of this in my life. Great. If you want to discover and find a little bit more out of your doshas, there's a lot of dosha quizzes. I can maybe link one under video later on that is relatively okay, but keep in mind that for most of us, this will manifest our imbalance. We will see what is our imbalance, and it doesn't matter because it's a great place to start to treat your imbalance. And of course, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to comment below and ask your question, and I will try to hop on and answer. All right, let's see if there's anything new. All right, ladies. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed sharing this with you. And again, please let me know. Feel free to ask any questions. And I hope to see you soon in person on retreat, maybe next year. All right, much love from Bali. Bye.